The recording now.
Awesome.
All right, everyone. So thank you very much for joining us this morning or this evening, depending on which part of the world you're in. This is the StellarTrek launch webinar. We're super happy to have you with us and excited to show you the product. The StellarTrek's been in the works at Humanware for a couple of years now, and it truly is a labor of love. Basically, just to give a bit of background on the product, we used to have a product in the past called the Trekker Breeze, which was a standalone orientation and mobility device. It was replaced by the Victor Reader Trek, which is kind of an hybrid device that does book reading and orientation and mobility as well. And we heard feedback from a lot of customers that they really liked having a dedicated orientation and mobility device. So at that point, we thought, well, what can we do to make one, but not only make something that would be like a VR Trek, but bring added value onto it. And this is where artificial intelligence came into play. So the StellarTrek basically is a orientation mobility device that integrates artificial intelligence through the use of two cameras on the back of the unit that enables us to do a couple of things. So we'll do some, on today's presentation, we'll be doing a couple of demos. Peter will go through the experience out of the box. We'll show you some of the features of the unit. And then we'll talk a little bit more after that. What are the differences between the VR Trek and the StellarTrek? Because I know that's a question that a lot of people have. And then after that, we'll take questions. I mean, if you guys have questions, comments or anything, we'll be more than happy to answer. So with all of that being said, I'm going to let Peter start. So let's go through the out-of-the-box experience for a new customer.
Sounds good. And so I think the place to start is kind of looking at what is in the box. And then I'll do a little bit of an item description to kind of lay the land on, what the product feels like and kind of the proper orientation of it. We do have video versions of what I'm about to show. I don't have my webcam and everything set up, mainly because my lighting is not so great where I am right now. But there will be snapshot tutorial videos that do have video accompaniment for those of you who are, as my former coworker and great friend Jim Sullivan would say, light dependent. For all of us here, including myself, we don't need that. So I will just do a very descriptive version of kind of everything that I'm doing. As far as what's in the box, and Matthew, you can kind of correct me on this too as we go through. I've definitely unboxed my fair share of units with some of the events I've been doing. But when you first open that box, you will have the StellarTrek kind of placed at the top on its own sort of platform, if you will. The product will come with also in the box is a holster so that you can put the product on your belt or clip it somewhere. You also have a lanyard option for it as well. The device does come with also a USB-C cord for charging, and that will be in the box along with gliders. And gliders allow you to use the product in different parts of the world. So the gliders are meant to fit various plugs. I have had folks come to me at conferences and say, why would you do this? It's so confusing. This is awful. I don't know what to do. And I've said, well, those are for different parts of the world, right? If you travel or if you need to take your product somewhere, instead of having to buy an adapter, we felt it was a beneficial piece to include those sorts of plugs so that you can travel to, in Europe where they're using 220 direct or here in the US where it's a standard 2-prong 110 outlet and things like that. So you will have glider options in the box that will fit the AC adapter, the wall adapter that is also in the box. There is a printed user guide as well in the box. It is not a Braille user guide.
Not a user guide, a getting started guide.
Or sorry, quick start guide. Yeah. Getting started guide there. So that is not in Braille. It is in print. You certainly could take a picture of it with OCR, which I will demonstrate later. So it's not as though it's entirely unreadable out of the box, because you can take a picture of it and read that text. The device does have cameras, and I'll get to that when I talk about orientation. But we will be able, to have that quick start guide. All of that information, though, the user guide, snapshot tutorial videos, quick start guide, is available on our website. So if you go to www.humanware.com, click on support, and then click on StellarTrek, you will find that information. So it is all there. What I'm going to walk us through, though, is a description of the device and then kind of give us a startup tour, if you will. The product itself, it's a very clean sort of interface, a very simple push button interface, as we would expect from Humanware products. When we build these things, we certainly want them to be used by somebody with one hand as you traverse your environments, as you hold your cane or your dog guide, or maybe someone's elbow and kind of have their cane positioned somewhere as you do some unique orientation and mobility sorts of techniques. But we know that you're going to be using this device with one hand, as you would with many of our devices. So we certainly want it to be a simple interface when it comes to navigation. The device itself, as you hold it facing you, you will have the USB-C port and the audio jack at the very bottom kind of device. If the device is sitting on a table, we want to have the button sort of keypad facing straight upward. You will feel some ridges on the bottom kind of face of the device and against the table, and that will be indicative of how you put the device in the holster. But at the very bottom, pointing at you, will be the USB-C port and the audio jack. If we're in that orientation, when we look at the top face of the device, we will feel that there are a series of buttons. There are 2 buttons and then an arrow keypad and then 2 more buttons, and I'll kind of talk about what those are. So the top 2 buttons on your keypad, the furthest to the left, on the top left, directly above your arrows, is going to be your back button, and it is marked with a horizontal line. So again, a tactile differentiator there to tell you what that button does. You have that back button. If you press and hold, it will always bring you all the way back to explore. And so again, back, and this will be demonstrated in the startup wizard. If you tap it once, it brings you back 1 level. If you press and hold, it's going to bring you all the way back to explore mode. The top right button is go to. We use this when we want to enter an address or go to a landmark. So if we tap the go to key, it's going to bring us into that select and a landmark is your destination. Or if you arrow over, you would then find your enter address manually. And again, I've done videos on these snapshot tutorials and kind of how to do these things. If you press and hold that go to key, it's going to be route selection. So that would be how you select your route and whatnot. When you move down, you have a 4-way arrow keys, up, down, left, right, very self-explanatory. And in the middle, you have a confirm key. So again, those are pretty easy to think about what they may be. Up, down, left, right, and confirm. Those will navigate you through your device, kind of as you move through menu items. You're generally moving left and right. I'll show you what happens if you move up and down, and there are no options available. Certainly, it will make an error tone. The bottom left button is where am I? This is probably the most important button while you travel. So as you kind of move through your environment, think about that number 5 key on your Victor Reader Trek. Same thing on the StellarTrek. The where am I key is going to give you your direction of travel. It's going to give you the next intersection. It's going to give you the type of intersection. Again, you can customize verbosity just as you would on the GPS products that we've had for a long time. But the where am I button is going to give us that pertinent information to a blind traveler. And to the right of that, so again, the bottom left button is where am I? The bottom right button is a new button called voice. What the voice button does is a couple of things. If the unit is talking incessantly and you want it to stop, it will certainly function as a stop talking button. So think of it as your control key, but it will also work as a dictation button. So when you are in a field, for instance, an enter address field, and it's saying, enter city name, you can dictate the city name of Phoenix or Chicago or Detroit or London, right? Whatever you may want, you can dictate in those fields and then you're going to hit go to and kind of search. Again, I've done videos on using dictation. So the device does support dictation, and it is not that type of sort of dictation we would get where it's call and response. It's not going to be that smart speaker style. It's more so when you were in an edit field, and Matt can touch on this, what that means as we move forward. But you're basically dictating into edit fields for now, and kind of saying the street or city or number that you're trying to input into those fields.
Yeah, because as Peter mentions, it is not natural language. It is just speaking in the name of the street or the address, and one of the reasons for that is that we're 100% offline. So keep in mind that you don't need to be connected to the internet to use this. So if you're outside going out and about in your day and you don't have internet, a lot of like Siri and Alexa and all of that use the internet to enable natural language. So it is something that we're looking at in the future to have some sort of limited natural language in an offline form, but for currently, it is only simple dictation.
And again, just to hark on that, what it would mean is you're not going to say directions to the nearest McDonald's. That would be natural language. What you're doing is you're using it to input text or input into various fields. And I've demonstrated this in a snapshot tutorial video, kind of what it means to dictate. In addition, so I'm going to look at the left face of the device. There are only two buttons, volume up and volume down. If you push them together, they become speed adjustments of your text to speech. So again, speak faster or slower. So on the left edge, on the left face of the device, that is all you have. You only have two volume buttons. On the right face of the device, you have two buttons. The first is power. Power also functions as a sleep button. So, and this is new for those who are, it's similar to what we have on a smartphone or tablet, or if somebody uses a Braille Note Touch Plus or even a Brilliant BI X series device, you can put those units to sleep. You can do that with the StellarTrek now. And my unit currently is in sleep mode, so I will be waking it up in a moment when we go through the out-of-box experience. It is not fully shut down. It is just sleeping. And Matt will get into battery life and whatnot, but when your unit is asleep, it's not actively working. So you are going to prolong, that time that your battery is going to last. It also makes it far easier when you need to wake the device up to do something. It's just ready to go. You certainly can shut the device all the way down by pressing and holding power, and then it will say press confirm to fully power off, and you can do that. But that is your top button furthest away from you on the right face. As you come down, you'll have a button that feels like it has a kind of a dot on it, more of a square shaped button. That is your record button, which would be used to record landmarks. And if we are traversing our environment, we want to drop a pin, so to speak, as we've done on our GPS products for many, many years. That is going to be your record button. So it will allow you to record those landmarks. I'm going to flip the unit over as we kind of feel, and again, there are ridges closest to the USB-C ports. And that indicates when we put the item in the holster, we want those ridges to be facing up. We want the USB-C port and audio jack to be facing up, kind of exposed, whereas so that it becomes easier to remove the device from the holster. And also when we take pictures, because furthest away from us on the bottom of the device, there are two cameras that are on the back face at the very top. Those cameras we don't want to cover with our hands. So therefore, we're going to hold the device with the ridges, and we're going to point the device forward and kind of take that, the ridges as an orientation factor. The reason why there are two cameras, and we'll get into OCR and that in a moment, is one of them is an OCR camera. So it is a camera meant for more of that narrow focus on text, to extrapolate text from your environment, to do some quick reading, to do some detailed page reading or ingredients or reading, which I'll be demonstrating. The other camera, the second camera, and again, they're both behind glass. You won't feel two cameras. You will feel a smooth, ovular glass sort of, I was trying to think of the word, but I'm going to say an opening, but it's not open. It's more of a glass surface. So an oval shaped glass surface with two cameras in there. The second camera is a wide angle lens. What that camera is meant to do is to bring in and scan our environment when we use AI, when we do address or door detection. And I'll be demonstrating a quick video that I've shot, not a snapshot. I need to work on a good snapshot. This is more of a quick real-time video. Actually, it's an audio recording of myself standing in front of my house yesterday. But what the device will do with that wide angle camera is at launch, the AI is used for door detection as well as address recognition. So if an address is present, it will be read to you. If it can find a door, that will be determined as well. There is, one door at X o'clock at 14, 15 to 20 feet. Again, it's meant to begin to get you as a blind traveler, and I say you, but myself included, to kind of understand that final 30, 20, 30, 40 feet when you get to an environment. Are you at the right place? I use this device a lot. over the last 8 to 10 months for kind of traveling and moving around. And it is very useful to use address recognition or door detection, as well as quick reading when you're out and about in your environment to gather text, to gather information about where you are. Of course, we all know and we all ask for assistance. I've opened many a door in my life and wandered into the wrong business and asked if I'm at the right location. But a lot of times nobody's there. Maybe you're at an apartment building. Maybe you're somewhere where you don't have, the ability. Nobody's around. You can start to extrapolate some text from your environment in a quick, simple, standalone sort of way. All right. That was your physical description. We certainly, and Matt, I know you probably have pictures and things which we can get to on the actual snapshots. They are on video. I'm going to wake the device up and we're going to walk through the out of box experience. So I am going to, again, I have a device that is brand new out of box. I'm going to wake it up and we're going to hear what we get.
English.
So the very first thing that happens when you press and hold your power button, when the unit comes to you, it should have a bit of a charge into it. I would strongly recommend plugging it into the USB-C port. When you turn it on, you will get a vibration. There is haptic feedback in the device. When it boots, you will then be brought into your language selection area. And as you heard, my device said English. If you use your right arrow, you will move through the available languages. This, again, is very similar to what happens on a Braille Note Touch Plus or a Brilliant BI40X unit. You're going to choose the language of localization. There are over 14 languages.
14, yeah.
14. So there are 14 languages currently available for localization. If I press my right arrow,
Densk.
here's Densk,
Deutsch.
Deutsch,
Español.
Español, and so on. I can move through the available languages. There are 14 of them available. When I find the language I want, I will press confirm. This does include Arabic, and this does include Russian, in addition to various Western European languages, and more will be coming. Many of our products, we localize in all sorts of languages, and that is something that continues to be a work in progress as we work on text strings and localizations. Certainly is something that we will continue to move forward, especially with the amount of maps we have access to. So we'll continue to grow this, but I'm going to use my left arrow. Again, if I press up or down here, nothing happens. I can't move up or down, right? We're moving left and right through our language. I'm going to move left back over to English.
Densk. English.
And I'm going to press confirm, and we're going to hear the out of box tutorial sort of startup wizard, if you will.
Welcome to the StellarTrek startup. We will guide you to pair a Bluetooth device, establish a Wi-Fi connection, allowing to update the StellarTrek software and install maps. Press the right arrow to continue.
So again, this is going to walk us through some orientation. It's also going to allow us to connect to our Wi-Fi networks, which is how we will handle map management, as well as any software updates. We're going to be able to connect a Bluetooth device. That could be a headset or a Bluetooth keyboard, because we can enter information using a Bluetooth keyboard. I've done a snapshot on this as well, and it can be very useful for text entry, which I will talk about. And it also will then allow us to update and install the proper maps. I'm going to press my right arrow because it told me to do so to continue.
The volume up and down keys are located on the left side of the device. Press those keys together to toggle between volume and speed adjustments. The back key is located on the top face of the StellarTrek, above the 4 arrow keys and marked with a tactile horizontal line. Use the back key to move back a level in this startup. Use the left and right arrows to navigate between items. The confirm key is located in the middle of the arrow keys. Use it to select an item. Press the right arrow to continue.
So again, what this gives us is that simple sort of description of the arrow keys, where's our back button, and our volume buttons. One thing you heard it say is if I tap them together, I will move between volume and speed. And I've already mentioned this, but I'm just going to demonstrate very quickly. If I push both volume up and down simultaneously,
speed.
Here's speed. Now, if I hit my volume up, or the key furthest away from me on that left edge,
speed 1, speed 2, speed 3, speed 4, speed 6, speed 7.
Right, we can really crank it up here.
Speed 8, Speed 9.
Now, I will say, as you start to get street names at this, and it's like turn left on, and you're like, what is going on, right? You may need to slow this down. You certainly now can get street name spellings and whatnot, which we'll talk about. But I'm going to bring this back down to 0.
Speed 2. Speed 0.
Right. Now, again, if I push them together, I'll be back to volume.
Speed. Speed 0.
I would hope if I
Volume.
actually push them together. So now I'm on volume where I can use my up and down to adjust the volume. I'm not going to do that because I'm connected to the mixer and I don't want to start to tweak things. I'm going to press my right arrow to continue through this wizard.
Keyboard input. In the on-screen keyboard input mode, use the left and right arrow keys to move by letter. Use the up and down arrow keys to move up or down by keyboard row. Press confirm to select the current letter. Press the voice key to read the entered text. It is located on the bottom right corner of the keypad. Use the go to key to confirm the text entry and close the keyboard, which is located on the top right corner of the keypad. To enter capital or accented letters, long press the confirm button on the selected letter to open a special menu. Press confirm to enter the character. You can also pair a Bluetooth keyboard to enter your Wi-Fi password.
So
Press the right arrow to continue.
So again, what this gives us is a bit of a description of how entering text works. Again, we're not using a keypad, so we don't have that T9 ABC on the number 2 and DEF on the number 3 and GHI on the number 4 and all of that we have to memorize. That is no longer how we're going to enter text. There are 3 ways really to enter text on this device. First is going to be with a Bluetooth or USB-C keyboard if you have one. The second way would be to use the dictation function. And the third way is to use the built-in virtual keyboard. Some would call this kind of the on-screen keyboard, even though there's no screen. And that is if you've ever used something like an Apple TV or a Fire TV or some of those devices, you know that you will navigate the keyboard using your arrow keys. And there will be 2 layouts you can choose from, and we'll kind of look at that in a moment. What you also heard was to have read back, what you've entered. If you want it to be read back to you, you would press the voice key and that information will be read back. Once you've entered the proper text, you use the go to key to actually submit your entry. And we'll be looking at that when I enter my Wi-Fi password. If you want to enter uppercase letters, you can press and hold on the letter you are focused on, or there is a shift option down at the bottom of the keyboard. Again, we'll look at this.
To proceed to the next step, press the confirm button.
So I pressed my right arrow and it told me to move forward. Let's press confirm. So I will press confirm. Again, that's the button in the middle of my arrow keys.
Keyboard layout. English QWERTY.
So
press confirm to select this value.
At this point, you are choosing what you want your keyboard layout to be on the device. And there are 2 choices. And at first there was one choice, and we know that many of our users may not be familiar or just not strong in that sort of QWERTY keyboard layout kind of familiarity. You can either have a standard QWERTY layout, meaning QWERTY sort of layout of your keyboard, or you can have an ABC type of keyboard where it's in more of a grid. So again, it's going to be whichever you're most familiar with. Right now, again, I pressed confirm and it said keyboard layout is currently set to QWERTY. If I press my right arrow,
English A, B, C.
Here's the English ABC keyboard. If I press my right arrow again, here's QWERTY. So you have 2 choices.
Press confirm to select this value.
Of course, if you didn't choose English as your language, as your system language, your keyboard would be maybe an AZERTY keyboard or various layouts. Those will be done in the sort of the QWERTY equivalent. There is not going to be an ABC equivalent for other languages outside of English at this point in time. But you can choose which will work best for you. I am very familiar with the QWERTY keyboard, so I want the QWERTY layout. So I'm going to press confirm on QWERTY. And again, we'll see what text entry is like when we get into entering my Wi-Fi password. So I will demonstrate that as well. I've done a snapshot tutorial video on both keyboard entry methods and how they are, how they work, both the ABC as well as the QWERTY, and where do you change them. So I'm going to press confirm.
Keyboard layout English QWERTY selected. Bluetooth setup. Bluetooth currently enabled. Press confirm to disable Bluetooth.
So at this point, we're in the Bluetooth setup area, and I'm not going to pair a Bluetooth device during this webinar. I've done a video on this. How do we pair a Bluetooth keyboard? I have a K380, Logitech K380 that I've used forever, which I really like. I love the action on it. It's a great keyboard. You can certainly pair any Bluetooth keyboard that you may have. It's going to be supported. So you could do this here. If I press my right arrow,
pair new device.
We would go through pair new device, and we would put our keyboard in discovery mode, and we would pair with it, and boom, we would be able to use it to enter text. I'm going to press my right arrow again, though.
Proceed to next step.
And we're going to activate this proceed to next step option. Again, I'm not going to pair any Bluetooth device here. If you had headphones or a keyboard, you could certainly do it right in this startup wizard. I'm going to press confirm.
Wi-Fi setup. Wi-Fi enabled. Click to disable Wi-Fi.
So at this point, you are going to want to pair to your Wi-Fi or connect to your Wi-Fi network. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you will not be able to install maps, and you will not be able to update the device. So Wi-Fi will be imperative for you at this stage in order to use the device effectively. You are unable at this point in time to install maps offline. There's no offline installer for the maps. And the reasoning comes down to that the maps are high definition maps. They still are here maps as we used on the Victor Reader Trek. However, they are uncompressed. And so they're requiring a lot. It's a very different download mechanism. And to go through all of that right now on an offline
Wi-Fi
installer is
enabled.
not something that's possible. So we do need to connect to Wi-Fi. I'm going to press my right arrow.
Not connected.
We'll hear that it says not connected. I'm going to press my
Select
right arrow
scan
again.
available networks.
Again, I pressed my right arrow and it says scan
Select to
available
scan available networks.
So I'm going to press confirm, and we're going to scan for my available networks here.
Wi-Fi scanning menu. Scanning. 3 new Wi-Fi found.
All right.
Direct 78
So-
HP Office Jet 200.
It found
Strong.
a printer
Select to connect to this Wi-Fi.
that I have sitting here. I'm going to
Select to connect to this Wi-Fi.
press my right arrow. I don't want to connect to my printer. Wouldn't do me much good. I'm going to press my right arrow,
Monoer.
and here's the
Good.
network I want.
2 new Wi-Fi found.
So I'm going to press confirm onto this network, which is my home network. So again, you use your left and right arrow to move through your available networks. As it scans, when you find the one you want, you will press confirm. This device will connect to both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz home wireless networks. I'm going to press confirm on my network.
Enter Wi-Fi's password. Q.
And we heard, if you were listening, and if you're listening to the future recording of, the archive of this webinar, you heard a rising tone that sounded similar to what we have on a Braille Note Touch Plus, where it goes dun, meaning we are in a text edit box. We also heard it say the letter Q, and this is because I am now in a text entry field, and I've chosen the QWERTY keyboard as my preferred entry method. I am focused on the letter Q. If you had the ABC keyboard selected as your method, you would be on the letter A. Now you will use your left, right, up, down keys to navigate this keyboard. I need to put in my Wi-Fi password. I'm on the letter Q, so if I press my right arrow, I would see W,
E,
R,
R,
and so on. Well, if I need to move down to my home row, if you will, I'm just going to press my down arrow.
F,
Here's my F. So again, I'm on F. If I were to move left, I'd see S,
D, S,
D, S, A. I'm sorry.
A,
If I move right, I would see G,
F,
H,
F, G,
H,
H, J, K,
L,
L.
and so on. The first letter in my password is an L. So again, I find the L, navigate to it, and I'm going to press confirm. We hear it click. The next letter in my password is I. So I'm going to move up one row and find the I.
O, I, U, I.
Again, I pressed I. Now, at this point, we're not going to go through my entire Wi-Fi password, although everyone is going to know everything about me because you're going to know my address. I've done enough of these where everyone knows exactly where I live. So I guess you could come over and connect to my Wi-Fi network, although I would probably know you were here because it's a very small townhome. But what I want to also show is if you want to delete a letter while you're entering text, we will press and hold our left arrow. So if I press and hold my left arrow, we heard it beep and it says I. So I just deleted that I. Now I'm going to put that I back in.
U, I.
And let's enter another random character that is not the next letter here.
K, comma.
I'm going to enter
B.
a B. So I've put in LI. I'm going to put in a B. Now, let's just say, oh, shoot, I don't know what I just put in. I really want, what do I have entered thus far in this edit field, in this password field? If I press my voice key, my current entered text will be read to me. So I'm going to press the voice key.
Lib L-I-B.
L-I-B is currently entered. And I think, oh, I don't want that B. So I'm going to press and hold my left arrow
B.
and get rid of it. Now, if you want to enter an uppercase letter, how do you do that? Well, I'm focused on my B. If I press and hold my confirm key, you will hear a higher pitched B, which will mean I have the uppercase letter in focus. So I'm going to press and hold confirm.
B.
Here how B was raised a lot higher. That would mean it's currently, I'm in a special characters menu where I can enter B. The first choice here is uppercase B. If I use my right arrow,
N.
I would be able to choose other options if I had them. So there are no other B's in other languages. But to give you a sense of this, I could have pressed confirm and entered that uppercase B. If I move up to a letter that does have accents, let's say the letter E.
Y. T. R. E.
So I'm focused on E. If I press and hold my confirm key, you will hear, a raised version of E, which means it would be an uppercase E if I were to press confirm. But I'm going to move to the right.
E.
So here's the first one. Okay, here's E. I don't want that. I'm going to press my right arrow.
E grave.
E grave.
E acute.
E acute.
E circumflex.
And so on, right? You have your umlauts, your various, your E that, depending on your special characters that may be in Spanish or French or some other languages, you can access those through the special characters menu by pressing and holding the confirm key. Again, the first choice is always going to be the uppercase version of the letter you are focused on.
E grave.
Again, if I want to,
E.
here's E, I'm just going to press confirm. I just put in an uppercase E. Now, if I have this read back to me, I'm going to press my voice key.
Lie. L-I-E.
Hear how the E was raised? That tells me, because again, I deleted that B. L-I-E, right? The E is uppercase. So you can kind of pick up on that tonal inflection there to determine what's been entered. As far as special characters with your punctuation and things, so I'm just going to delete this E.
E.
Those are going to be present. You'll get to those by moving to the bottom of your keyboard.
D. C. Switch to numbers.
And you have switch to numbers, which would bring up a numeric keypad, although your numbers are present on the virtual keyboard above your QWERTY row. If I move left,
Shift. Switch to symbols.
all the way on the bottom left, you have a switch to symbols option. This is very similar to kind of the on-screen keyboards on an iPhone or something like that, where you then would have other symbols, the @ sign, exclaim, parentheses, greater than, less than, those sorts of things would then be available to you. So, and I've done a video on kind of using some of these pieces. I will say on this keyboard, so again, I'm not going to go into symbols because you can explore that yourselves, but on this keyboard above the Q row, or if you're using the ABC layout, above the ABC row,
A, Q, 1.
you do have your number pad. So 1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
5. I
5.
just used my up arrow to move all the way to the top of my keyboard, and the number row is present. The other things, a couple of common symbols are here.
G.
I'm going to move
B.
down to my row with the
Space.
space bar, which is kind of below the B and M row. If I move to the right,
Done.
you do have, oh, that's up. Sorry, I'm going to come up.
Space. Question mark.
You have your question mark,
Dash.
you have your dash,
Dot.
you have your period,
Comma.
and your comma.
M.
Again, to the right of your M, as you would. It's somewhat similar to what a QWERTY keyboard layout looks like. There just are some additional symbols here, as there tend to be on these things, so that because you can't just press Shift 2 to do @ or some of these things will be added. So you do have some symbols on this standard QWERTY keyboard, but if you need more, you would want to move to that bottom left option and go to switch to symbols. Of course, to avoid all of this, just use a Bluetooth keyboard and you will save yourselves all kinds of exploration time. However, we want you to be able to enter text in a simple, seamless way. I'm going to finish putting in my Wi-Fi password here. So
J.
let's do this.
K. J. G.
Now, I've said
Y. T. R.
that
G. H. J. K. I. O.
I try to do this quickly, but
U.
somebody out there will figure out what my
J.
password is, I'm
F.
sure.
D. F. R. T.
Oops.
T. Y. T. R. E.
And
3. 1. 5. 8. 5.
And what I'm going to do, once I
Eight,
put this
0.
in, okay, so I put in my password correctly. And again, I navigated that keyboard with my arrow keys, just using the QWERTY layout. Once I've entered my text, I can always confirm it with the voice button. We're not going to do that. You don't need to read my password, but I'm going to press my right arrow to move all the way to the right of the keyboard.
Delete. Done.
Where we have a done button. And you did hear delete. There is a delete option there if you don't want to press and hold your left arrow. But I have a done button that will then connect me. So I'm going to press confirm on done.
Connecting to Manower.
and it's going to connect. Once this connects, it's going to
Authentication failed.
tell me that I failed. So I'm going to reconnect.
I think you forgot to remove the E.
I might have. I very well might have. Let me just
Enter Wi-Fi's
do
password.
this quickly.
Q
I'm going to clear everything out. All right, let's go.
A F H L
I want to set up a competition
I U I
where we have people do
K
this,
A G
quickly.
H Y T
We have like some sort of
H Y U O P O I U Y U J F D S
where we have some sort of competition to see who can enter passwords, numbers, letters. It's going to be like the old school
Random strings.
right,
3,
random strings.
1.
They have like Excel competitions.
Yeah.
8
It's going to be like that.
4 5
And then we'll do some with the
0 delete
various Victor Reader
0
Trek input methods as
You
well.
Authentication
I
failed.
wonder if hold
Q
on one second. I am
checking for
going to
updates.
if it failed,
Checking for updates.
how can it check for updates? That's my question to you, Matthew, product manager.
That's a good question. I think it
The
might not
voice
have
update
failed.
is available. Install
It did
now.
not fail. So I will.
Press confirm to install or press back to remind you later.
This device that I'm using is running beta software. And your units, when they connect, will not do what my unit just did. This unit is running a version of beta, so it does see a voice update. Your factory units that ship to you will not do this. I'm going to press confirm and quickly install this voice update.
Downloading update.
What this will do is it will download the update and check for any
10%.
system updates that are available.
33%.
Hear that this is very fast. Again, it's just zooming down on my Wi-Fi,
58%.
which is very quick, fortunately.
84%.
But it's installing a voice update.
Installing.
So once it
Voice
downloads,
update completed.
it installs.
Checking for updates.
It's going to check for any other updates. Through the
Checking for updates.
sort of beta branch.
Downloading update.
I have a lot of demo units, so they will always be kind of looking for anytime I do a factory
Checking
reset,
for updates.
looking for these updates. But it will then bring us to the next step in the startup wizard.
Please wait.
Please wait.
Too long.
No, this should not be too long.
Please
Again,
wait.
your units will not do this, fortunately.
Please wait.
And there is a snapshot
Please
tutorial,
wait.
snapshot video on the startup wizard as well.
Please wait.
I think there are 9 of them total snapshots.
Please wait.
And there are a few more in the works. So we're looking to have probably more like
Please
12
wait.
to 15 snapshot tutorials for this first version.
Please wait.
And I've posted a link to the playlist in the chat.
Please
here.
wait. Downloading update.
Cool. So it's seeing something on the beta branch, which I
System up to
think is
date.
good. All right. Now,
Maps installation. After selecting a continent to browse, use the confirm key to select or unselect countries or provinces. When done, press the Go to key, located on the top right corner of the Stellar keypad, to start downloading maps. Choose maps to install. Press confirm to continue.
so this is very important. Again, without Wi-Fi at launch, for the next little bit here, we're not going to be able to install maps offline. So you have to have a Wi-Fi connection to install maps. When you get to your Wi-Fi connection, once you connect, you will be brought to the screen, which will allow you to choose the maps you'd like to install. You will be able to choose anywhere from about 4 to 6 maps at a time to be placed on your device. And this is because the high definition maps are going to be, they're uncompressed. So the maps download and then essentially unzip. The map, the internal storage is 32 gigabytes on a StellarTrek. Generally, that means, especially if you're looking at, we're going to download
After
a
selecting
quick
a
one.
continent to browse,
I'm going to press
you
confirm
browse a continent, 6 continents.
so that it doesn't keep
Africa.
talking. Once you download a
Press
map,
confirm to browse this continent. Press go to when done.
once you download a map, you're going to be able to, it will tell you how much space that map is going to take up, depending on what you have selected and unselected. Generally, you'll get about 4 to 6 maps. I currently on my personal demo unit have Illinois, Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and that's about 16 to 17 gigs. On the Victor Reader Trek, you were able to download an entire continent or more because those maps were not the uncompressed sort of high definition maps. With what we're doing here, they are going to be a lot larger. If the entire US, I think, is about 60 gigs, which is not going to fit in an offline version on this device. So you will need to do some maps management. Certainly something that we are assessing, and definitely
Africa.
the offline portion, we want to assess as well. So again, what happens is we do need to browse our continents and select or unselect the maps we want to install or remove. You are first placed in this area, which is the select a continent area. Africa is the first choice. I'm going to move over to North America, but I'll let you hear the options. So we have Africa,
Europe,
Europe,
Middle East,
North America,
Oceania, South America, Africa.
and then back to Africa. And again, it's not every
Press
country.
confirm to browse this continent. Press go to when done.
It is not every country, but there are lots of additional countries here that we have not had previously. So you are able to bring in all sorts of maps. I'm going to use my right arrow, come over to North America.
Middle North America. Select a country.
Confirm.
6 countries. American Samoa.
So we do
selected.
have various North American pieces here. I'm going to press
confirm to browse this country.
I'm going to use
press
my
go to when done.
right arrow to come over to United States.
Mexico, Puerto Rico, United States.
Press confirm.
Select a state. 51 states.
All right.
Alabama and selected.
So what you hear is, again, I used my right
press
arrow.
Confirm to select this state. Press go to when done.
And we are getting these hints that I will press confirm to select the state. But let's think about what I did. So I pressed my right arrow to find the proper continent. I used my right and left arrows to move through the available countries at that continent. Now, if that country is an entire map, it would start downloading, or you would select it, and then you'd be able to hit go to. What I'm going to do here, though, is I've pressed confirm on United States, and now I'm going to move to the state that I want to select. When you reach a state you'd like to select, it's a matter of pressing confirm. So if I wanted to select Alabama, I would just press confirm on Alabama.
Alabama, selected.
Now it's selected.
Press confirm to unselect this state.
And we hear
press go to when done.
We hear it tell us that if we want to unselect, we press confirm. I am going to have Alabama unselected. I'm going to unselect it with confirm.
Alabama.
I don't want to download Alabama.
Alaska,
what I do want to download is
press confirm to select this state. Press go to when done.
Is Rhode Island. So I'm going to use my left arrow and move over to Rhode Island. Again, these are in alphabetical order.
South Dakota, South Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and selected.
Here's Rhode Island, and again, it's the smallest state, so
press
I do want to
confirm to select this state.
Download.
Press go to when done.
This one, for those of you who've spent hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours downloading maps on a Victor Reader Trek over Wi-Fi, the experience here is very different. Because we are using these high definition maps, they're pushed differently. It's not going to be a matter of taking 12 hours to download 4 or 5 maps. You will see this. So again, I select the maps I want. In this case, I'm just going to select one map, which is Rhode Island. I could certainly select 2 or 3, but I'm going to select just Rhode Island.
Rhode Island, selected. Press confirm to unselect this state.
And now
press go to when done.
I'm going to press my go to key, as it told me. Once I've selected or unselected the proper states with my confirm key using my left and right arrows, I will press go to complete the process. So when I press go to, it's going to analyze and tell me how many maps I will add, how many I will remove, and what that will do space wise to my device. So I'm going to press go to, which is that top right key, again to the right of the back button, top right key on your keypad. It's going to look at what I've selected or unselected, and it's going to tell me
checking for map to install or uninstall.
How much space.
1 elements to install, 0 elements to remove. Map updates can take several minutes. Do you wish to proceed to map installation? This will require approximately 1.38 gigabytes on your device.
So even the Rhode Island
confirm
map
to install.
is going to take
back to cancel.
1.3 gigabytes here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press confirm, and it's going to download this map.
Downloading map.
What you'll hear is you're going to get a status
0%.
progress here, and this will be much quicker. So
3%.
even at 1 gig, you're hearing that it's moving quickly.
5%.
It's probably going to take me about 1.5 minutes to do this map.
8%.
If you're downloading a map like Texas, California,
10%.
some others, it may take you 5, 7, 8 minutes.
13%.
Or something like that. The other thing, I'm going to turn this down.
16%. System is updating.
just so that it doesn't give us percentages over and over. If you have really good ears, you can hear it in the background. What I will say, the other thing to keep in mind here. So when I had a trip last week to go out to Baltimore and Washington, D.C. to do some things. I was unable to download all 4 maps at once. That did not mean I couldn't get all 4 maps on my unit, but the way this works is the download happens and then the map unzips. Sometimes if you try to do too many at once, it will fail. So, and I was telling Matthew, I said, Matthew, I can't download all these maps. It's crazy. It only says it takes up 16 gigs. My device is empty and I can't get the maps I need. And he said, well, you need to do them 1 or 2 at a time. And that certainly worked. So I did Illinois, which is where I live, Illinois and Maryland. And then I did DC and Virginia, and it worked. And I still have, several gigabytes free to add more maps, but that may be something that you will run into if you're trying to select, 6 maps and you think I have 6 maps selected that do not take up more than, 26 gigs or something. I can't install them. Try them 1 or 2 at a time, and you will have a far better success rate. And then go forward and select, the other maps you'd like. So just something to think about.
We have a question from Bianca in the chat that asks, like the StellarTrek, does the StellarTrek unit comes with a preloaded map? The answer to that is no, because as Peter mentioned, the maps are way too big for us to fit an entire country like the United States on it. It'll fit certain countries in Europe and whatnot because they're smaller countries. But yeah, we can't ship. It is part of the user experience to go through the wizard and choose your maps. And then if you're in a place like, say, Germany, you can choose to install just your province or your region, or you can choose to install the entire country. In the US, you'll be limited to a few states at once. That being said, as Peter mentioned, we are working on having an offline map installation mode for a future version, which should be coming somewhere in the fall.
So it did download. Now it's unzipping.
Please wait.
I'm going to turn this back up.
System is updating. Please wait.
So
36%.
It downloaded.
55%.
Now it's quickly unzipping.
67%.
Once it's done unzipping,
78%.
it will be on my unit. So
96%.
it downloads, it unzips,
Installing.
and then it installs.
Please wait. Map update completed. Press confirm to exit.
Now, at this point, I have the Rhode Island map installed.
To activate the key describer from
device.
anywhere in the system, double press the Where Am I button. To configure more settings, press and hold the down arrow key to access the settings menu. Press confirm to start using your device.
So a couple of things here, and this is the final step of that startup wizard. We've selected the maps we'd like to install. They have installed. We press confirm, and we are brought into an option that tells us how to get into the key describer. That can be accessed by double pressing the Where Am I button quickly. And I've done a video on this as well. You can also find it in the settings menu. And we also are going to kind of hear that to get into settings, you press and hold your down arrow. And I'll be demonstrating this too. But it says press confirm to start using your unit. I'm going to press confirm.
Welcome to StellarTrek.
And we're ready to rumble.
Explore.
Now it's
Wi-Fi connected. Searching for satellites.
It's going to search for satellites.
Outside of map perimeter.
Right, all day.
Entering open area.
And it won't do much.
GPS ready.
Because I don't have the Illinois
time
map
was
here.
adjusted automatically.
So because there is no Illinois map, it's not going to do anything for me. But I do have another unit here that I'm going to switch over to which is my personal demo unit that I didn't want to factory reset for the webinar purposes, where we can look at some other pieces. And I do want to show you quickly, though, how that key describer works, where the settings menu is, and then I'm going to throw it back over to Matthew for some info. Then we'll come back to me for some OCR. Again, to get into your key describer, you will double press the Where Am I button. That's that bottom left button below your keypad. If I double press it,
key describer on.
I've now turned key describer on, and this is going to allow me to kind of push a key and hear what it does. So let's just say I push my right arrow.
Next item, intersection or instruction. Press and hold, toggle open area locked. When using routes, press and hold, indoor route preview.
So it gives me the various functions of the right arrow. And we know and it maps very similarly to what happens on a Victor Reader Trek, or even on a Trek or Breeze for that matter, or a Breeze Plus. The right arrow tells me the next intersection I'm coming up to as I'm walking. If I press and hold, it locks me into open area mode. Extremely useful when you're on that college campus, when you're in a parking lot, when you're kind of doing those sorts of things. And if you are in, looking at a route, if you press and hold, that's your indoor route preview. Again, all of these things are very common and have been a commonality on our devices for a long time. In terms of the right arrow, the where am I, what do these buttons do? How do we pull up points of interest? Well, we're going to press and hold where am I? And then we're going to look at our points of interest and so on. I'm going to get out of key describer mode. You can double press.
Key describer off.
And I want to walk you through one more piece, and that is how to get into your settings menu. Again, in the snapshot tutorial videos that I've done, we talk a lot about what is in our settings menu. How do we manage maps? Well, it's in our settings. How do we connect to a new Wi-Fi network, or how do we connect to Bluetooth, and those things, they're in our settings menu. So if I press and hold my down arrow,
settings, Bluetooth,
here's the settings menu. Your first choice is Bluetooth. I'm going to use, again, if I try to press up or down, nothing happens at all. But if I press my right arrow, Wi-Fi,
landmarks and routes.
Here's our landmark and route management. Voices. You are able to have 2 voices on the device, one for navigation, one for system, and then and you can also use a different voice for OCR. So 2 voices. There are 3 places you can choose to use those 2 voices. I've done a snapshot on voice management, which will kind of walk you through the acapella voices you can choose.
Maps management.
Here's your maps management. I'm going to just using my right arrow.
Key describer.
You can turn key describer on in this menu.
System.
Here's system. That'll give you your sort of info. What versions of things are you running? Do you need a factory reset? Those things would be here. I'm going to press my right arrow again.
About.
And here's about. This, about is where you're going to find out what version of everything you're running. System is going to be where you reset your GPS positioning, where you do a lot of things. And I have not done the snapshot on the system menu yet, but I will, and certainly on the about menu. Those 2 are still coming. But it's kind of where you determine various specs of your device and where you change settings. So in the system menu, you might change your verbosity settings and so on. What do you want your point of interest announcements to be? What do you want your haptics to be, and so on. So a lot of that is here. Again, to get out of this, I can tap my back button, or I can just press and hold.
Explore.
And I come back to explore. Remember, if I tap my power button, my unit will go to sleep.
Sleep on.
You will hear it say sleep on. It is now sleeping. It is not fully shut down, but it is simply in standby mode. If I tap that button again, it'll wake it up.
Explore.
And now it's ready to rumble.
GPS ready.
And I can start doing what I need to do. If I want to turn the unit off, which I will, I'm going to press and hold power.
Press confirm to shut down.
And I'm going
press any other key to cancel.
I'm going to press confirm and fully shut this unit down. I'm going to throw it back over to Matt. And when he comes back to me, I'll be on a different unit and we'll look at some things.
All right. Thank you, Peter. So we've got a couple questions. We'll answer them once we're done with the whole presentation. So right now, what I'm going to go through is the differences between the StellarTrek and the StellarTrek. Just give me one moment here. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, so share. Share screen. Here we go. All right. So basically, and that'll answer actually a couple of questions that people were asking in chat. The StellarTrek is not going to be end of lifing the StellarTrek, so we will still be selling the StellarTrek for a little while. We'll see how how the sales go and everything over the next year, and then make a decision if we do discontinue the StellarTrek or not. Our plans for the StellarTrek in terms of updating is to release another map update on the StellarTrek next year. So we are planning on having a map update in terms of the software, because that's a question that was asked as well. we are looking into a couple of things, but we're not sure if there will be a software update. But for a map update, for sure, we will be pushing a map update. So yeah, so this is a table. For those of you who can see, this is a table of the differences between the StellarTrek and the VRTrek. I'm going to go through all of them. So turn-by-turn navigation obviously is something that we have on both the moment here we go, on both the StellarTrek and the VRTrek. A question I was asked also in chat was, what type of maps do we use? So we use the Here Maps. So it is not Google Maps, it is Here Maps, which is a fairly well-known maps provider. I'm gonna skip over address and OCR reading. We're gonna get back to it afterwards because Peter will do a demo on those. Custom routes and landmarks. So we've got yes on both. So we can, on both the StellarTrek and the VRTrek, you can do routes, landmarks, and all of that. The big difference, and that's a feature that was requested by a lot of users, is TTS-based landmark names. So basically, when you record a landmark, let's see your favorite park bench, you're going to go next to it, you're going to put in a landmark, and you can say, this is my favorite park bench. You've got a 4-second recording that you can do. Afterwards, you can go into your landmarks, and you can edit that to remove the voice recording and then put in text instead. That will be read back by the TTS in the future. So that was a much requested feature from our users. Pedestrians and motorized modes is something we have on both devices. So depending on how fast you're going, the device will detect if it's, if you're walking or if you're in a car, because obviously if you're going 60 miles an hour, you're probably not walking. Routes between maps. So Peter mentioned before, the maps are higher definition and much bigger than they are. And this is the reason why they are, is that they're much more performant, and it allows us for some stuff like having a route between maps. What that means is, I'm here in Quebec in Canada, near Montreal, and I want to drive to New York City, for example. With the VRTrek, you're not able to have a route that'll start in one map and end in another. With the StellarTrek, as long as you have all of the maps that are included in between the different states you want to go in, then you can definitely do so. Offline use, I've mentioned this before, where you don't need internet to have the StellarTrek to operate. The only exception to that is during the initial setup, where you're going to be downloading your maps, because there's not going to be any maps installed on the device. So you're going to need Wi-Fi once to put on your maps. We also recommend you connect to Wi-Fi when you're home, as Wi-Fi will also check for updates, download system updates, voice updates. It'll download the satellite positions, which will allow you to get a much quicker GPS signal acquisition and all of that. The sleep mode, Peter talked about it a little bit before. So basically, if you do a quick press on your power button, the device will go into sleep. And basically what sleep is, it's kind of like shutting down the screen on your cell phone, meaning the device will still drain battery a little bit. It'll drain a little less. But if you want to wake it up, you just press the button and it's instant. It doesn't even take a second. It's back up. If you shut down the device and you power it back on, then it takes about 30 seconds to power on. So if you're going to a friend's house and then you're going to be spending dinner there and then leaving afterwards, you might want to put it to sleep and then just quick press the button to wake it up. However, if you're getting home and you're going to go to sleep for 10 hours and then use it on the next day, you might want to shut it down. Dynamic voice management. So basically, and Peter has a snapshot tutorial of this on YouTube. You can change your voices directly on the device without having to go through an SD card and all of that, because this is one of the things that we didn't mention before, but there's no SD card slot on the StellarTrek. It's only internal memory. So if you want to update your voices, you can go into the settings menu and then choose your reading voice, your navigation voice, your system voice, and all of that. Bluetooth is present on both devices, but on the StellarTrek, as Peter mentioned, you have the option of using a Bluetooth keyboard, which we don't have on the VRTrek. Now, where the StellarTrek doesn't do what the VRTrek does is book reading, podcasts, and internet radio. So the StellarTrek really is dedicated to orientation and mobility. It's not an entertainment device. So it's not going to read your Bookshare books or your NLS Bard books or your, Daisy Library books. It's not going to do internet radio and all of that. It really is just for mobility. The StellarTrek has voice dictation, which the StellarTrek doesn't, and it is also water resistant. It's not waterproof, so I would recommend against dropping it in the pool, but if you use it outside in the rain or something like that, then you will be fine. Now, another great news is the GPS technology. So in the StellarTrek, we were using GPS and GLONASS in terms of GPS technologies. Now with the StellarTrek, we have those two, but we also have access to Galileo and Beidou. And I know that in the past for the StellarTrek, we have said that, perhaps we would get Galileo and everything, and we never ended up doing it. And honestly, that was a mistake from the past. We learned from it. Galileo is available right now on the StellarTrek. It's not, I'm not telling you it's going to come in 6 months or anything. It is there now.
Well, and I'm going to stop you really quick there,
Sure,
Matt,
go ahead.
because one misconception of that is when we had mentioned Galileo in the past, we had mentioned this magical world where Galileo meant, first of all, we said we would be able to access it, and secondly, we said when you do access it, you will have 1 foot of accuracy, and that is not what Galileo is. Galileo is simply another satellite availability. It's another system, another group of satellites that have been launched. It means there's more GPS coverage, but it doesn't mean that your accuracy is magically down to 1 foot. What requires that is sort of in very small parts of the world, there is that type of accuracy if you have dual band sort of near field GPS types of technology. So Galileo is here, but you're still going to get that kind of 25 foot sort of accuracy piece. As someone who's traversed a lot of places with this device, especially all over the city of Chicago, including strapping my 1.5-year-old daughter on my back and kind of going for some cruises, it is very, very accurate, and I'm very pleased with the accuracy of this device. I mean, it really is good. So Galileo isn't going to, I used to give examples of, because what I was under the impression, many of us were here, was that Galileo would mean we would be able to landmark a park bench. And when we went to go find that landmark, Arcane would find it, before Galileo would tell us we were there. And that's just not the case. It certainly is, something that is going to be just another satellite system that we are able to take advantage of.
So as Peter mentioned, it is just another GPS system. It is, it's not going to be any more. The one thing that I can say though is on the StellarTrek compared to the StellarTrek, your GPS signal acquisition and the precision will be better. The GPS chip, obviously, it's a newer chip. It's, as technology evolves, so we've improved stuff, and we are even working in version 1.1, which will be coming up in the fall or early winter. We are working on having improvements done to the GPS signal, because even as it stands, this is a new product. There are, I'm not going to lie, there are kinks and little things here and there that sometimes, for example, out of the box, when you immediately pull it out of the box, the GPS signal is a little bit slow to acquire on the first time. Once you've got it, and if you use it daily, you're never going to have issues, but the first one is a little bit slower. So we are working on, ways to improve that and everything. So as time goes on, it will improve, but it is already pretty good compared to the StellarTrek. It is a fairly solid GPS. Next item was text entry. So on the StellarTrek, as Peter mentioned before, we've got T9 text entry, ABC on number 2 and all of that. On the StellarTrek, we've got virtual or physical keyboard and voice entry. So you've really got a plethora of choices there. You can really, choose whichever way you prefer. It works really, really well. For headphones on the StellarTrek, we had Bluetooth and wired at 3.5mm jack. We have the same thing on the StellarTrek, but we also had USB-C. So if you have a USB-C headset, I mean, those are kind of rare, but they exist. So if you have a USB-C headset, you could plug it in as well. The USB type, as I just mentioned, is USB-C compared to micro USB. So we expect that the StellarTrek USB port will be fairly sturdy. And then the battery life. So the battery on the StellarTrek is a built-in battery. It is not a user replaceable battery. With that being said, on the VR Trek, you can expect to get 8 to 10 hours of life approximately, you know, perhaps more 7 if you're really heavily using it, perhaps more 11 if it's more of a light use, but somewhere around that ballpark. On the StellarTrek, we're talking about 20 and plus hours. I've had someone report to me that they've used it for 26 hours without having to recharge it. It is a really, really sturdy battery. We are super happy about that. You can use it for, you know, I've had people tell me I've used it for a week before I had to charge it, a week and a half before I had to charge it, if you use it like a couple hours a day. So yeah, the battery life on the StellarTrek is really pun intended, stellar. And then, yeah, the next two items, I'm going to come back up in the list here that we have on screen, address recognition and OCR reading. So basically, we've talked about this a little bit before. Address recognition, what that is you get to your destination. Let's say you were going to 123 Main Street. You get there, the stutter is telling you you've reached your destination. Now, we all know both the GPS and the map can be sometimes not 100% precise. So it is possible that in reality, you're in front of 125 instead of 123. So basically, and Peter's has a little recording that he's gonna play for us, but you would take your device. For those who can see, I'll kind of demonstrate it like so. Take your device, you'll point it right in front of you at your eye level approximately, and then you'll go into your address detection mode. It's gonna do some beeping and all of that. We'll hear that in Peter's recording, and then it's gonna tell you one door found, one address, 125. Now you know that you've either overshot by a door or you're short one door, and then you need to go, you know, either back a little bit or further a little bit, and then you can take another picture and it'll tell you one door found, 123. You know you're at the right place. So now this is AI, meaning that it all works offline, and it is artificial intelligence. It will not work 100% of the time. I'm not here to make false promises. The success rates that we've seen in our testing ranges anywhere from 60 to 90%, depending on the environment, depending on the lighting, depending on the weather. You know, if it's super sunny outside and you're taking a picture of a door that's a glass window, then the reflection might, you know, make it impossible to see the address for the cameras. But typically, like in a residential area, if the address is like on the right side of the door, above the door, and it's written in a normal font and all of that, we're getting pretty good results. So again, around 60 to 90%. And it will improve over time. As I said, we still have teams working on this device. Version 1.1 will be coming in the fall, and we'll have improvements to the AI, so that success rate of 60 to 90%, depending on the area, will go up. And we will also implement a feature where you will be able to share your images with us, any image that you take only for address recognition. That will be an opt-in feature, meaning that if you do not want to share your images with us, we will not send them. It will be 100% opt-in. And then, yeah, with those images, we'll be able to build our data banks even further and improve the AI even further. Now, these image sharings with us will not include OCR reading, because OCR reading is optical character recognition. So for those of you familiar with devices like the Connect 12 or the Reveal 16, basically it is just reading text off a piece of paper or off a box or something like that. So obviously those would be a bit more sensitive, because you might be reading your tax returns, for example, and we wouldn't want those to be shared with us. So only the address recognition, which are public doors outside, would be shared. So on that, I'm gonna toss it back to Peter. He's gonna play the recording that he did for the address recognition and also do a little bit of OCR reading for you guys. Peter, you're on mute still.
Well, that doesn't work, right? I was like you should have heard the voices I was doing. I was giving all sorts of like wildly amped up. I was excited and no one heard it.
There you go.
This is the artificial intelligence part of the program, ladies and gentlemen. We will be looking at how we are able to utilize these cameras. So there are three pieces, as Matt just mentioned, one being address and door detection, The second being quick reading, which I'll demonstrate with some food items I have here. And the third, detailed reading, which I'll demonstrate by showing how we can use the AI to actually kind of drill down into ingredient or nutrition facts on food. It's something we've spent some time working on, and kind of we'll get a sense of how we've done at this. And it's very cool. As someone who's never really been able to easily discern nutrition facts by taking a picture. Obviously, we can look these things up online, but a lot of times when we OCR something, we just get these huge amounts of results that are not very well organized. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate that. I am going to quickly share my screen. Again, sorry for the no video here because it's just not, I don't have an overhead camera and all of that. So when we do snapshots on these things, there will be video accompaniment. And certainly on anything I've gone over today, there is video accompaniment on the snapshot tutorials. Whereas here today, it just was something that is not going to be practical. What I am going to do is share my sound, and I am going to quickly do this. Okay. Now, I am going to quickly mute my speech here. All right. Now, what I want to do, again, this is a quick video, nothing, it's actually an audio recording. Oh, why is this not in focus? Nothing is in focus here. And what it will do is kind of bring us through what this address recognition sound like. So forgive my amateur sound recording skills, but I whipped this up yesterday afternoon. So you will hear the Chicago summertime. And, if you're somewhere cold, you can just hear these wonderful cicadas. So here we go. All right, everybody, we are outside for this wonderful door detection demo. You will hear the cicadas, and hopefully you will hear me too. I am in the front of my house, so we're going to take a picture of a door with an address, and we're going to kind of go through the process of what that sounds like with the new StellarTrek. I am in orientation mode, and to get into our door detection mode or address confirmation, we're going to press and hold the up arrow. So I'm going to do that now.
Detection modes. Address confirmation.
And the very first option here is address confirmation. So I'm going to press confirm.
Camera ready.
And we'll receive an announcement that the camera is ready. And at this point, I'm going to hold my device up so that the buttons are facing me. Again, the USB-C port will be at the bottom, kind of pointed toward the ground. My two cameras will be facing away from me at the top of the unit. And I'm going to scan at about head level. And when I encounter a door, I'll receive a series of beeps. If the beeps get closer together, so I did hear a quick beep, but what we want is more of a rapid sort of rapid fire kind of beep sequence. And when we hear them, we'll know we have a door in focus. So I'm going to scan, and we're going to get this sort of beeps. We hear that a door is present, and there's very rapid beeps. I'm going to press confirm, and we're going to get what we find.
Please wait. One door, two house numbers. Door with number 826 found within 10 feet and less at 12 o'clock.
So what it does is it gives you you hear that it found two numbers here, and I do live in a townhome complex, so it could be seeing some other things. But the piece of this is you're getting where the door is located, and you'll also get the number. You can press your right arrow
house number
to move through your house
door
numbers
with number 826
and kind of hear if it finds more than one door or more than one number. You'll also hear where that is in location to yourself as you went from when you've taken that photo. So again, a quick demonstration of how door detection and address confirmation will work. And I will point out that this is indeed correct. All right. So what's really neat about that, which is something I did not know. I live in a townhome association, as I said, and I've been doing this testing for quite some time, and I always get two numbers when I take a picture of my house. I've lived here for over 14 years. And I had to go get my wife, and I said, you have to tell me, why am I getting two house numbers? It always says door with number 826. And then if I press my right arrow, it says house number 826. And she goes, well, yeah, it's posted twice. And I was like, oh, okay. What are you talking about? And she showed me. So not only it sees the door, my door with the house number on my mailbox, but to the right of that, there is a plaque on the brick on the very front of my house that has the number posted as well. So it was able to find both of those. I never knew that that the number was up there twice. And so with this, and again, it's a great example of using this effectively. Of course, I love that it's nice and accurate. I have certainly taken a picture of that door and it says number 8, right? It is not perfect, as Matt said. However, when you start to do this more often, you do kind of get the hang of, well, I didn't get anything, I'm going to aim my camera a little bit skyward, right? I'm going to try to capture the top of the door, the side of the door. I'm going to try to look for addresses, especially when you're out and about. Not every address is in the same spot on every door. Not every door is the same. And this is expected. They shouldn't be. There should be no uniformity. It's great that there isn't, but we're trying to kind of get to where we can solve this. The other thing that I use very frequently, and I'm about to demonstrate quick reading mode, I almost use it more than address recognition, because when I'm in an urban environment or in an environment where maybe I take a picture and I don't get any text, or I get some random, it's like, I know I'm at 1321 West Taylor Street and I'm getting something that says 7422, and I'm thinking, what in the world is it doing? It's reading the phone number of the business. It's reading text that it's finding. Maybe a menu is posted. Maybe the business name is posted. Maybe there's a warning, wet floor sign or something. What you can also do is quick reading. And I use quick reading often to also get text in my environment, text on a sign, text anywhere, because it's going to look for text. So I'm going to demonstrate quick reading quickly, and I'm going to do so with some food items, which is what I use it for. But if you've ever used Seeing AI, you know that quick reading is kind of something that pulls text from your environment and sort of a regular intervals. What the camera sees, it will identify text that is present. I have a couple of cans here that I am going to check what they are, because everyone's favorite game is what is in the can. And I have definitely played the game of open the can and figure out what it is back in the day. Certainly have used many apps and things now so that is not an issue. But there still are times where maybe your iPhone's charging, maybe you're not comfortable with using smartphones. And that's, again, we know that these features are available in other methods. That is not our goal, is not, to kind of replace that for you if you're comfortable with that. However, we do find a lot of consistency and a lot of users who prefer, I personally prefer something that is standalone, that I can use one hand to operate quickly. So it is something that we, why we've brought this stuff forward. And there is a lot of use case for it for a lot of our customers and users. To get into this mode, I am currently in Explore mode. I'm going to press and hold my up arrow as I did to get into door detection.
Detection modes. Address confirmation.
And we hear address confirmation. We know that's what I used in that short audio recording to capture my door and my address. But if I press my right arrow,
quick reading,
we will have quick reading. And what quick reading is it's going to take pictures at a regular interval. I think it's one every, do you know, Matt, every second and a half, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And it will pull any text in my environment. So when I press confirm, I'm not going to point my camera at anything. You'll kind of hear how often it will take the picture. So I'm going to press confirm.
Camera ready.
And I'm just going to point it at the floor. You'll hear it takes a photo, doesn't find any text. Takes a photo.
Hello, Augia.
Oh, see, might see business, might see something on my floor. Takes a picture, doesn't find anything. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to aim it at this can of food. So let's point it here.
Back.
Let's see what we get.
Black beans pipe, good source fee, Bennett WT.
Yeah. Now I'm going to turn it a little bit. See if we can figure out the brand maybe. Let's see what we get. So we know these are black beans. And again, I'm doing this not really I'm holding this kind of in front of me, so it's not going to be perfect.
BAATWISS 0.
I believe, again, to determine what this is, we hear, okay, these are black beans. I'm going to move on to another can very quickly. See what we got. I pulled this out. My wife cooks so many things, and we have so many cans, and I actually don't even know what this one is. But general rule of thumb with a small can like this is I put the seam away from me. Let's see what we get.
100% pure
Pumpkin. It must be pumpkin. Let's see. Try it again.
Row 00, 100% per pump.
And what you might do with quick reading.
Lobby food source vitamina 100% per pump, all naturally knows.
Yeah, this is definitely pumpkin. So again, it's pulling it. I'm just holding this can
100% pure pump
in front of me. I'm going to try another one. This one I know what it is, but just going to do a little bit of positioning here. All right, let's see what we get. I think Okay, let's see what this one is. So this one, I definitely know what it should be.
Ale. Ogden other and natural cream of nut butter up at renewed potty
Okay,
near
I think
Vinglake.
this is some type of nut butter. Let's take another photo.
Good and gather Noster natural real peanut butter spread
Heck yeah.
9096 peanuts. Detection
I just
modes.
pressed back to get out of
Quick
there.
reading.
So again, quick reading. It is not about accuracy. You heard it, just grabbing text and throwing or spitting that text back at me. If you take a picture, I also use this a lot of times. A screen reader goes down. I use this to take a picture of my computer screen to even see if it's on. I'm going to just show you quickly what that might look like.
Camera ready. A #, easy # s dash collab.
So again, I can shoot it here and we'll get
HCALAP
there's
296.
my computer name. It can see my desktop and so on.
Detection modes.
Again,
Quick reading.
anything it will find in your environment, it's going to rapidly fire that text back at you. It is not detailed reading. It is not about accuracy. So when you use this sort of mode, you're just trying to pull any text you can in real time, and it's going to infer it in real time. Now, when we want more of an understanding of what we have, we certainly could do a detailed reading on a can and get a way better result, or on a, you know, a computer screen or a TV. I've definitely done it on the TV to know if the TV's on. What I want to do though is show you detailed reading. And I currently have a box of food, and I didn't know this, but as I started taking pictures of things, I realized that ingredients lists are commonly on the sides of boxes. And I'm going to do a detailed read on the side of this box, and we're going to see what it is. So again, I'm in my detection modes. You press and hold your up arrow. The first is address. We heard what that does. Quick reading is just rapid fire pictures that will give us the text that is found in our environment, or whatever we're holding in front of the camera, or whatever our camera may be pointed at. But if I move to the right,
detailed reading.
We have detailed reading. And what this will do is guide us to take a proper picture. And once we take that picture, it's going to allow us to better analyze that text. So I'm going to press confirm on detailed reading.
Camera ready.
It's going to give us kind of guidance to take
rotate
a photo.
Counterclockwise.
Here it says rotate counterclockwise, move up, move down, move
right.
left, moved right, and so on. Let's
move farther.
Do this.
Move up.
Once we're at a good place to take a photo,
move farther.
It's going to allow us
move farther
to do so. And I'm going to move my microphone out of the way here.
Move up.
So that we can take a good picture.
Stop moving. Taking picture. Cheez-It Baked Snack Crackers Original Nutrition Facts about 20 servings per container. Serving size 27 crackers, 30 grams, 150 amount per serving. Calories daily value 10%, 8% total fat, 8 grams saturated fat 1.
Now, that's going crazy, right? We know what it is. It says Cheez-Its, which I love. I've loved them since I was 2 years old. I'm sure many of us here, especially in the States, love Cheez-Its. They are probably the best cracker you can buy. Always have them in the house. When I was really little, I called them chicacas, just for reference for everyone here. So if you ever see me at a conference, you can remind me of that. I have video of it somewhere. My mom shows me all the time. But what we heard is it said, okay, original Cheez-Its. And it told us some info about how many per serving and whatnot. And then it started going this and this and 8% and 6% and 10%. And it just starts to read information in these muddled tables, right? And it starts to read it top to bottom, top left to bottom right. And it doesn't make sense to us. What we've worked on is a way to extrapolate or drill down into this information. So I've taken a detailed read. And if I press my right arrow, I can then look at some of the different categories that exist, and the information will be presented correctly. So I'm going to press my right arrow.
Browse nutrition facts.
We hear browse nutrition facts is one of the options.
Press confirm to browse text using this category.
I'm going to press right arrow again.
Browse text blocks.
And we have browse text blocks.
Browse nutrition
so
facts.
In this one, now, depending on the photo I get, sometimes
press confirm to browse text using this category.
If I moved down a little, I might have a browse ingredients part of this sort of breakdown. So you are able to then make more sense of what these tables are. Let's look at our nutrition facts for Cheez-Its.
Browse nutrition facts.
So I'm going to press confirm here on browse nutrition facts.
Press confirm to browse text using this category.
Again, I'm just using my left and right arrow. Press confirm on browse nutrition facts.
Saturated 1.5 grams, 7%.
So what that's telling me, again, it's organized. Saturated fats, 1.5 grams. That's 7% of my daily value. I hate these things because who's only going to eat like 24 Cheez-Its? Not me. I'm going to eat like, I'm going to sit there. I'm going to read the newspaper or something, or have the White Sox on and just eat Cheez-Its until I don't want any more Cheez-Its. Well, let's press our right arrow.
Non-saturated, 2 grams, 0%.
So non-saturated, 2 grams, 0%. I'm going to move right again.
Fat, 8 grams, 8%.
Fat is 8 grams, 8%.
Carbohydrate, 17 grams, 5%.
So again, you can start to drill into and make sense of those tables. Whereas we read this stuff from our initial scan, the page scan, and a lot of OCR kind of does this, where it really can struggle with breaking down nutritional labels and cooking instructions, things like that. We've put a lot of time into, and again, nothing is perfect, but put a lot of time into trying to better allow you to make sense of what the camera is grabbing. And I think this is a huge piece of this product. The OCR is a huge piece of this, and it will mature. It will mature. Right now, we can find an address. We can tell if where the door may be. We certainly then are going to use our awesome O&M skills to get the, to find the door and to move around.
Carbohydrate, 17 grams,
when we
5%.
When we look at this, I'm going to press my back button.
Browse nutrition facts
to get back to that level. But
press
as we look at this,
text using this
it's
category.
not just pulling up text and reading a letter, right? It's trying, and it certainly can do that, but it's about obtaining or gathering more about household, products, various things we may be using. I use this a lot. I have lots of cans in the house, soda and energy drinks and all sorts of things, and I certainly use it to identify lots of those. And I think we'll see a lot of this maturation here in sort of how the product will grow and what this AI will mean. Right now, the AI is OCR, which is not new, but certainly this sort of breaking down things into categories, and then also the door detection, the address detection. Where that will lead us, we shall see, but definitely wanted to provide a couple of examples. Again, to get into this mode, we press and hold our up arrow. That brings us into the 3 detection modes. Address,
browse nutrition facts.
I'm gonna come out of here.
Cheez-It baked snack, camera ready.
Address, or quick reading, or detailed reading. Those are the 3 modes and kind of how you can use them. And I do strongly recommend, as you traverse your environments, use quick reading if address and door detection is not yielding you the results you're looking for. But just because you don't get a door result on the first try doesn't mean it's not there. I certainly have had to take several photos, and you need to do some deductive reasoning, but it is a way, if you don't have that layer of asking for assistance, that you can quickly get some confirmation of what's in your environment. All right, Matt, back to you. Rock and roll.
All right, thank you very much, Peter. Basically, we're about, we're 10:27. We scheduled this to go till 10:30, but we do have a lot of questions. So we're going to go a little bit overboard. I'm going to go over all of the questions that we've received. If you have other questions, feel free to type them either in the chat or in the question and answer module in Zoom, and I'll try to answer everything before we leave. So the first question that was asked was that I see here is, can a Trek be connected to a Braille device? So currently the answer to this is no, but we are looking at, this is a feature that was requested by some of our beta testers.
Yeah, this is definitely on the radar about Braille display compatibility. This has come up a lot. And I would very much love to see this. I've certainly suggested it myself. So as a Braille user, I mean, this would be fantastic.
Is the table of difference available on the website? So I'm assuming this is talking about the table of differences between the StellarTrek and the StellarTrek. It is not, but that's a good suggestion. I'm going to take it down, and we'll see if we can have that put on the website eventually. Would there be a future VR stream-like device focused on media playing capabilities? So if you're talking in terms of the StellarTrek, if we're thinking about bringing those on the StellarTrek, the answer currently is no. If you're talking about a new VR stream-like device, like something new that we're currently developing, we can't give information about stuff that's undergoing development right now. But as soon as we can, we'll announce what will be coming. The StellarTrek supports all the same features that the Trek does, radio podcast. So no, it doesn't, Jessica. So basically the StellarTrek will not do podcasts, NFB, and all of that. It really is
Yeah, think of
focused.
any Victor Reader Stream functionality, any of that audio consumption, everything from NLS, digital talking books, not just NLS, but any digital talking books, music playback, notes, um, the online services, Wikipedia, Wiktionary, downloading directly from services, NFB Newsline, podcasts, internet recording, internet radio, all of that. None of that is on this product. This is a standalone, dedicated GPS device, and then with the added functionalities of course, new maps, the artificial intelligence sort of technology, and then just a modern sort of experience with Bluetooth keyboards and USB-C and all these other things. But any of that Victor Reader Stream functionality is not on this product. It's not here.
There we go. Like Google Maps, how close will the Stellar get you to the front door of your home? So this really depends on the map accuracy and everything, but we are expecting in most cases it'll get you right in front of your home. There might be cases where the map, and again the map provider is here. If ever you find that for some reason in an area, let's say you live in Swiss and in Switzerland, and then your hometown is all about 10 meters offset, then you can send us an email to the support team and we'll forward it to here and have them correct the maps. But I mean, in theory, about 98% of the maps are fairly accurate.
Well, the thing is, I know that we've had previous tables that directly compare here maps to Google Maps, and when you do that, I believe there are many. There's about 6 categories on the table, and I'm sure we can find that table. Here maps, I think, at an accuracy level, is right at the same, in terms of map data, is at the same sort of trajectory as Google Maps. They use here maps. And I know I've mentioned this on previous webinars, but it's used in autonomous vehicle research. These are not just maps that Humanware randomly found and that only, Humanware uses. These are used by various car companies. When you use your infotainment or your car, if somebody has a car is driven somewhere and they're not using the smartphone, if they're using your in-car navigation systems, those are using here maps. Many of them, Audi, Ford, they're not using Google Maps. They don't have those contracts. They're using here maps in those onboard navigation systems. So that is where these maps come from, and they are absolutely comparable in accuracy and data to what you're getting in Google Maps.
Absolutely. Why get rid of the StellarTrek? What if I buy StellarTrek? Will I be able to use it 5 years from now? So we're not getting rid of the StellarTrek. Perhaps you weren't here a little bit before, but we are still going to be selling both devices concurrently. So basically, there's 2 types of people in the world. There's people who like having, a Swiss Army knife, and then there's people who prefer having, a hammer and a screwdriver. So for those who like Swiss Army knife, the StellarTrek remains. It'll be a great device as it currently is. You'll be able to use it to read your books, to navigate, and all of that. For the people who like using more specialized tools, then perhaps you might want to look into getting a stream for your book reading and podcast needs, and then getting a StellarTrek for your navigation needs. The StellarTrek, really, the big difference is those 2 cameras that we have on the back. You can do OCR, as Peter demonstrated. You can do address recognition and all of that. It is not something you can do on the StellarTrek. So basically, everything you can do in the StellarTrek from a navigational standpoint, you can do in a StellarTrek, but the opposite isn't true. However, on the StellarTrek, you'll be able to read your books, your NFB Newsline, your book share, your podcasts, and radio, and all of that. The next question was, is the battery replaceable? So it is not user replaceable, but it is replaceable by a technician. So if ever you have an issue with the battery, or after a few years the battery needs to be replaced, the device, just like an iPhone, the device can be sent in for repair by one of our certified techs. Is the GPS line going to be separated from the audio player going forward? So honestly, that's a question that I can't really answer right now. It really depends on the reception of this product. It really depends on what happens with the StellarTrek moving forward, within the next year and so. So honestly, time will tell. This is the only good answer I can give you for this. Can the maps work for trails, for example, the Appalachian Trail? That's a good question. I think it'll depend if those have been mapped out by here maps. So I really can't answer
I
for.
think the piece there may be that, if you walk a trail, so I've used this, I was up in the Boundary Waters up in northern Minnesota earlier this year, and I took the StellarTrek with me, and I was using it to, on that trip, we were doing about 10, 12 miles a day of rowing and all sorts of crazy backpack type of camping, me and some friends. And I was using it to kind of chart the course of some of our kayaking, our canoeing. Certainly will work in those open areas. If you're in open area mode, you can record a route. It doesn't mean it's going to map a trail. That would have to be done by here maps, but you can map your own trails as you explore. We have lots of folks who do that sort of thing as part of, if they are going hiking, if they're doing things, they might drop a landmark at their campfire. And then by all means, they might need to. So, this is not a TMI situation, but when you're in those campgrounds, I say grounds, there's one campsite and the latrine is about 200 yards away because there's moose and bear and all sorts of things. And you need to traverse the woods to do it. So I did record a route of getting over to that area where you have to go to the bathroom. And it worked. It worked. I certainly used it to get there in the morning before my friends had gotten up. And so it's, you're doing that yourself. You are able to record routes in open area mode and then rewalk those routes or backtrack. Alternatively, you can drop landmarks and then be guided as the crow flies. So it's not like, you need to be using some very good O&M skills to get there, but you can also do it that way. You can move toward your end point in open area mode with the distance becoming shorter at 3 o'clock, 200 feet, 100 feet, 48 feet at 6 o'clock, whatever it is. So that's another method for working in open areas when it comes to trails and things. But to expect to go hiking the Appalachian Trail, I highly doubt that that's mapped by here maps or even Google Maps. A lot of those wooded sort of trails are not going to be something. And also keep in mind, when you're in some of those dense canopy areas, you might not even have great GPS if you're in the middle of a forest. It just really depends where you are. But to expect those to be pre-mapped would be probably quite rare.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Does this device use LiDAR? The answer to that is no. There's no LiDAR in the StellarTrek. Can it recognize numbers like 23A, 26B, 27.5? So that's for address recognition. So currently, no, it doesn't. It'll see the 23, but might not read the A. And actually, to be totally honest, it might even not read anything at all because it might think that 23A is not an address. This is something we are currently working on actively to have ready for version 1.1 or perhaps 1.2. I'm not too sure yet, but it is something that we are looking to improve as this is used a lot.
It's relevant to me too. So I live in a townhome thing, as I said, and next to me I have 8, something unit C, unit D, unit E, and so that is something that will be worked on for sure.
Someone's asking, where's the MAC address listed for the device? So basically, if you go into the device information menu in the settings, or even at launch, when you're in the Wi-Fi menu in the setup wizard, you can have it read the MAC address of the device so that you can add it to your network if you're MAC filtered. Will the user guide be available as a DAISY book? That currently the user guide is available as a Word document. It is on our website. I do not think there is a plan to convert it to a DAISY book. Will it detect glass doors? The honest answer is that glass doors are a bit more difficult to work with the AI, especially due to reflection. But with that being said, we are working on ways to improve that. But yeah, it is
it will work.
Challenge.
Yeah, and I think sometimes what you get also with glass doors is it will think there are 2 doors. So when you go to many places will have a door with like a nice big window next to the door. There are times, and again, this is true on the new iOS as well, for anyone who's using that door detection, it will oftentimes think there are more than one door when there isn't. It will struggle with glass doors because the reflection may be kind of funky. I think that stuff, again, as the databases and all of this AI comes forward, that will improve. But and I think it also depends on lighting. I've had glass doors work perfectly fine at various times a day, depending on cloud cover, depending on where the sun is, depending on all of that. So it's kind of a you might have a different result when you wait an hour, or when you're at a business, 5 days, it works great. And the sixth day, you think, what in the world is going on? It's not doing what I want. And that's just something to kind of contend with, that we, again, our hope is, once we do have the opt-in feature for image sharing, or submitting your images to us, that we can begin to address a lot of this by building our database. I mean, that's how artificial intelligence and machine learning learns, by building a database. And it can't build a database without pictures. It can't guess what a glass door might look like. It certainly won't do very well. And it will never know all of them until it starts to build its own muscle memory, if you will. So that's something I'm sure will come forward.
Someone's asking about indoor navigation. So as you all know, indoor navigation is pretty much the holy grail of, GPS, blind orientation mobility. We are currently looking at solutions, different technological solutions for indoor navigation. We don't have it right now, and I am not going to promise to you, any of you, that we're going to have it, anytime, not in the near future, that's for sure. We're looking at it medium and long term, but we are talking with some companies. We are looking at different technologies out there in the market, and we would love to have indoor navigation. It is the ultimate goal of this. But will it, I mean, perhaps, in 3 years, I'm going to listen back to this webinar and say, oh, how foolish I was to think that we wouldn't have it. Or perhaps I'll say, perhaps, we'll have it in a year, and then we'll be happy. So, you're on mute, Peter.
It's definitely on the radar. And we're well aware of what's possible with indoor navigation from various pieces. Some, as someone who travels a lot, work very, very well. So we're talking. We are very much aware that indoor nav is the future. And I've always said, what it comes down to is not how well you can navigate a building that's been developed. It's how universal is the technology. We don't just want to implement something that works really great in the let's just say in Portugal, in the metro station, that someone's done flawlessly. That's not going to get us anywhere. We need to look at technology that will be universally consistent, easy to put in play, and then also work across the board. So, and there are some of those systems finally coming online. So we're very much aware of that, and I think we'll make some progress, but we'll see.
The other question, so does this mean no map will be installed on the device? That's correct. So there will be no maps, but you will go through the wizard and install whichever maps you'd like. Will you be stopping support updates of the StellarTrek GPS in favor of the new Trek, as the Trekker Breeze was discontinued? So as I mentioned before, just to be on the safe side, we are keeping the StellarTrek. We will be releasing a map update for the StellarTrek next year. In terms of software updates, that's a little bit more uncertain for the StellarTrek, but currently we don't plan on discontinuing the StellarTrek.
I'd like to say too, as someone who certainly watches and absolutely pays attention to various lists and chatter spots, the Victor Reader Trek is, and I will repeat it, is still supported. It is still being sold, and it will still receive a map update. It's still going to be a part of our product line. I know it can be very easy to spin, and sometimes these things get taken out of context. Mathieu said 1 year and this and that. There is no end of life plan at this point in time for the Victor Reader Trek. It is still a product we are supporting and selling. So that is finite. That is a definite answer. It is not going away. It is not being replaced. So please do your best if that comes up, and if that is start to, we've seen things take shape. Please try to correct folks who may have other ideas of what's going on. We have every intention of continuing to support and provide Victor Reader Trek units and support to our users.
Craig asks, can I transfer the routing that we've put on the Victor Trek to the StellarTrek without any difficulty? So yes, on the Victor Reader Trek, you could export your landmarks and routes both to your SD card, and then on that SD card, transfer it to a PC, and then from the PC to the internal memory. Because if you plug in your StellarTrek on a computer, you'll see the internal memory. It'll show up as a device, and then you can put in those files, and then in the menus, import your routes and landmarks from a VR Trek. So
And I'll do a snapshot on those, Craig, for sure. That is on my radar to do an import export routes and landmarks type of snapshot tutorial video, specifically for the user who has things on a Victor Reader Trek, or who maybe just has multiple StellarTrek units and needs to create landmarks or routes on one unit and get them onto 4 more. Definitely is something we can do.
We've got Patrick saying, thank you for the great presentation, as well as your Wi-Fi password. Not sure if I missed that part.
Come on over, baby. Come on over.
But is it also possible to connect a Bluetooth headset, perhaps even hearing aids? So yes, we do have Bluetooth connectivity, either for headphones, an external speaker, or a keyboard. And then we've got Sam asking, have there been any considerations to integrate Waymap technology for venues that will be mapped instead of just relying on Galileo? So to be honest with you, I am not familiar with Waymap. Peter, are you?
Sorry, Matt, my computer was going crazy. I didn't hear you.
No problem. So the question is, have there been consideration to integrate the Waymap technology for venues that will be mapped instead of just relying on Galileo?
I don't even know what Waymap is.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them either.
I'm not sure what Waymap is, but if you're, so again, it sounds like it may be another map provider or possibly some sort of solution for indoor nav. I'm not sure. I can look into what Waymap is.
That from the context of what it sounds like. So yeah, so obviously if it is for indoor navigation, then Galileo would be useless, because obviously if you're indoors, you're not getting any signal. So we are looking at several vendors out there, several companies and technologies for indoor. All right, 2 last questions and then we'll let everyone go. One question here we have is, have you tried using the cameras to recognize menus at restaurants or overhead menus at fast food places?
So I like this one. So yes and yes. I have used it at restaurants for sure. The overhead menus. So this is something, again, you're not going to do a detailed read on an overhead menu because you're not going to move up, left, back. You're never going to get, those are huge menus. What I would do with that is I would use quick reading. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but you are going to be able to grab the text off that it's finding in your environment. I have used it at, I was at a where was I? I think I was at a Popeyes, and I did use it to pull, and they have this new like $11.99 meal for 2 or something like that, and I was able to, kind of see that and grab other info. Really though, what you want to do at a restaurant, the overhead piece, ask them for a printed menu, or if they don't have a printed menu, you can take the route of trying to capture what's going on the wall behind the person. You can also turn off that shutter sound. I think it's very important. We don't always want to be walking around going trying to take pictures of everything. Like, we're not paparazzi, right? We don't need to broadcast. So you can turn that off in the menus, the shutter noise, or you can keep it on. Certainly up to you. And that's something to be a little more discreet when you are taking a picture, just standing there aiming your phone, although everyone does it now, right? Everyone takes photos of everything. So let's not be afraid to take pictures. Believe me, there are people taking pictures all over the place, whether and oftentimes we don't know that, but certainly, it's something that's part of kind of today. So yes, I have used it in restaurants, and certainly it works well on printed menus.
How good is the speaker compared to the one on the VR? What would you say, Peter?
I mean, that's very subjective. I don't think there's any way. I think somebody will say it's terrible and somebody will say it's great. That'd be my answer. And I believe the same thing is true on any product we have ever put out. You will have some individuals who really like the certain voices, some who despise them, some who certainly really want, and think the speaker is so much improved and perfect on A device versus B device, or this generation versus that generation. And some say, it works great for me. It is louder. So if that means better, then that will be a determination of the individual ear. But really, I mean, it is a louder speaker for sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't always translate to it being better. I think for some it will be much better. For some it may be muffled. For some, the outdoor volume could be more muffled, and then to somebody else's ear, it may be a very smooth process. So that's a very tough question to answer, and I think it's kind of determined by, as you use the device, where's your comfort level with those speakers.
All right, and then the last question, and I think some people might have been waiting for, in terms of pricing. So what's the price In terms of pricing, I can give pricing for Canada, US, and Australia. So in Canada, it is 19.95 Canadian. In the US, it is 15.95 US. And in Australia, we're looking at 21.95 Australian dollars. Now, for Europe, I would recommend contacting your dealer because the price will vary depending on the country and whatnot. So for Europe and the UK, just contact your, Humanware rep or our customer service, and you'll be able to get some pricing there. And really lastly, because this just came in, what's the range of the camera? So the range of the camera to get a good picture would be about 20 to 25 feet at the most. Obviously, the closer you are, the better. I sent the device to one of our sales rep in Australia, and she went out walking with some customers, and she was surprised. She took a picture of a sign that was about 30 feet away, and it worked A1. So, I mean, again, it'll depend on the lighting, on the font, on the size of the text and everything. But yeah, typically, we're for a door detection, for example, we recommend being about 10 feet away. But if you're a bit further, 20 feet, it'll still work. If you're like 30 feet, then that becomes a bit of a part of my language, but a crapshoot. All right, so we're done. Once again, I would like to thank absolutely everyone, especially Peter, for being a co-host with me today. We were super happy to be able to present you this product. It is something that, as I've said before, is a labor of love. I still have weekly meetings where we talk about future features of this. There's stuff that's going to be coming up. As a quick sneak peek, in version 1.1, for example, we've got a compass that we're trying to get out. So there are some exciting, fun stuff coming up in the future. If you have any questions, you can email, our support team or our customer service team, our sales rep. They'll be happy to answer. And Peter, you want to say something before we go?
Just very much appreciate everyone joining us on this journey. And then we are doing another one of these webinars this evening. So some of you may be joining again. We'll certainly be the same. I'll still take pictures of black beans and pumpkins, but we are doing another one of these. So if you did not have your question answered and would like to reintroduce it this evening, that webinar, I know for some of you it's middle of the night now if you're in Australia, but that webinar will be at 8 o'clock Eastern time here in the US. So it may be another opportunity for you. Again, same flow, same webinar, but for those of who may prefer a different time, there is going to be another one of these. So thank you, everybody. And thanks to Matt. This is Matt's inaugural user. Well, actually, your second user webinar, because you did
Yep.
we did one on Victor Reader, StellarTrek
Yep.
Victor Reader Trek back in May. So
Yep.
just glad to have Matt on board, and we really are glad that everyone's able to come and join us. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
See you, everybody.